The 3:30 p.m. meeting of the Bakersfield City Council is now in session.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to call to order the 3:30 regular City Council meeting of May 13th, 2026. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go,
Here.
Vice Mayor Core, Councilmember Arias,
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
I'm here.
Councilmember Weir,
Here.
Councilmember Smith, Councilmember Coman,
Here.
and Councilmember Bashir Tosh.
Thank you. Welcome. In keeping with Council's resolution, the public statements portion is divided into two periods. There's a period for items listed on the meeting agenda and items not on the meeting agenda. Statements for items listed on this afternoon's agenda are given a 2-minute time limit, 20 minutes total per agenda item. Statements regarding items not listed on the agenda are also given a 2-minute time limit, 20 minutes total. If you have written comments that are longer than your verbal statement, give them to the clerk. She'll give copies to the council. If you're here to make a public statement, please fill out a public speaker card and give your completed card to the city clerk. We ask that you mark whether you're here to speak on an item listed on this afternoon's agenda or in a matter not on the agenda. Speakers who do not identify a specific agenda item will be presumed speakers for the non-agenda portion. Those speakers will be called during the non-agenda portion of the meeting. Everyone in attendance is expected to adhere to the rules of decorum established by resolution of the City Council. Failure to abide by the city's rules of decorum, including any disruptive behavior that interferes with our ability to have an orderly and efficient meeting, prevents the City Council from conducting the business of the city. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers regarding items not listed on the agenda?
Mayor Go, we've received one speaker card regarding items not listed on tonight's agenda. The first speaker is Jeff Miller.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to try to cram in a lot in 2 minutes.
Welcome, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself.
Jeff Miller. Been in and around Kern County my whole life, 54 years. Love it here. Work out in the oil fields, was in the military, put me through school, put me in the oil fields, and here I am today. Can I go on?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Recently, a couple months ago, my wife had a medical emergency. She's fine. You know, you kick into gear, EMS shows up, they do their thing, they put this on her finger, a pulse oximeter, right? This is actually considered basic life-saving service the second they put this on you. She arrived at the hospital. I was not too far behind. The crew had already dropped her off. I'll say, all in all, from call to drop off, maybe an hour of their time they spent. Per the county rules, they're supposed to respond 90% of calls within 9 minutes. They were there in 20 minutes is what it took to get to my house. Longer story short, I get the bill. I look at the bill. The bill for basic life services approved by the county supervisors totaled up to $3,500 for what they call basic life-saving services. She didn't have a gunshot wound. She didn't have a heart attack. She wasn't receiving chest compressions, IV, anything. She could not speak, thought maybe it was a stroke. But in all the things I'm looking through, and I looked in AB 716, plus Hall Ambulance actually told me this on the phone. I said, well, how is it that they don't get billed over and I'm getting it? I was literally told by their biller, we have to make it up somewhere. So we have to bill people that have insurance the full amount. But if you have Medi-Cal, Medicaid, they can't surprise bill you is what it's called in AB 716. I just don't understand it. I'm going to pay my bill, my responsibility that I agreed to. But what I want is the next time you guys talk to the county supervisors before they approve something like this, shouldn't there be some sort of tier, not just, hey, it's all basic life-saving services. I get it. And I want to pay my bill, but I don't want to pay $3,000 for a $35 item in 1 hour of their time. I get it. Everybody needs to make money. I'm an American through and through. I love this place. But when is it overbilling? That's everything in a nutshell. So I appreciate your time.
Mr. Miller, thank you. Thank you for your military service. And the county supervisors also have a meeting on Tuesdays, so you might want to
That's my
take
next-
this matter before them.
Yep, that's my next stop, but I was like, I can get it on the record here and hopefully get you guys on my side, because I know you all have to rub elbows at some point.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, next speaker, please. Or
Mayor Go,
Yes.
that was our only non-agenda public speaker. We also have not received any items or any speaker cards regarding items on today's agenda.
thank you. So now, next item, please.
Reports item 4A, a presentation regarding the certified sixth cycle housing element, annual progress report, and required code amendments.
Thank you. City Manager Clegg.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Mr. Phil Burns will handle this presentation.
Honorable Mayor, Council members, Phil Burns, Development Services Director. Have hopefully a brief report on our housing element and our annual report. It is a bit wordy. I did that on purpose on some of our ordinances, so we have a lot of information to discuss. Hopefully, we can get to it quickly. Just kind of an overview of the presentation of the different items I'm going to go over.
Mr.
And-
Burns, can you get a
Yes.
little closer to your mic?
Sure.
Thanks. Just
Sorry.
for our public that might be
Absolutely.
listening. Well, I'm just thinking about the public that's listening.
So this slide is showing a topic that you've seen many times. It's our regional housing needs allocation. If you recall, City of Bakersfield was assigned 37,461 units over an 8-year period. Of that, the overall Kern County, the 57,650, we've been allocated 65% of the total number. Our housing element consists of 5 goals programs. It has 28 policies, focuses on 20 implementation programs, which really breaks down to 112 action items and 277 tasks. And I bring that up in terms of the dollar commitments, the time for staff, the outreach, and others, which I'm going to get more into as we go through this. Goals and policies, if you actually open the housing element, it's broken into 5 goal sections, and these are the goals for each section. I want to focus more on the action items, which is a breakdown of the 20 programs. Again, 112 reportable actions, 277 tasks. And as you look through these, the way they're broke down, if you notice one's highlighted, there's 14 different tasks that are dedicated to certain funds for different tasks. There's 41 policies. These are new policy changes or ordinances or code changes, or could be something at staff level. And also there are 60 programs within the housing element that creates or modified a existing or continuing a program. Again, trying to focus on the burden that the housing element puts on cities in California and the way it's been adopted. We're talking about dedicated funding. This is a sample of the types of projects that need funding within the housing element. I think sometimes we think about just the assistance needed for specific affordable housing programs, but there's actually, it's well beyond just affordable housing programs, and it varies widely. This is an example of one of the actions within the housing element. This requires a policy change. For instance, this is a required actual municipal code change. I bring this up because later tonight at 5:15 session, we have an item with multiple code items. And what they're related to is a series of actions in the housing element that many of these were required to be adopted back either in December of 2024 or January 25. And here we are in 26. So that's why they're kind of coming at you tonight. This slide shows those policy or municipal code changes within the housing code. And what this tabulates is the municipal code section that's being changed, the health and safety code or assembly bill that triggers that change, and also the housing code action, so that staff's able to track, or if there's a question, we're able to go back into the document and find that particular change. For example, the amendment of the table eliminated the requirement of conditional use permit for large community care facilities. This is one that Planning Commission had a case. Now we're actually back in front of you changing our code to address these particular type of units. And I'm bringing that up as this is one of the items that we're required by state HCD to amend. So it's something that, again, by adopting and negotiating our housing element to be in compliance so that we're able to apply for state funds, these are some of the kind of unintended consequences of some of the adoption of codes. This slide is just, again, another set of the municipal codes that will be in front of you guys tonight for amendments and the background of why they're being changed. And if there's particular ones that council wants to discuss in more detail, I'd be happy to do so. Our annual progress report was submitted back before April 1. We're required to do this every year. And it's basically showing where we are in connection to our eight years. And it's reporting both the number of units, the categories of those units, but it's also all of those other items, those policies, those goals, those specific implementation items. So it's not just the numbers. These policy items are things we also have to report in Table D in the report. To touch about our where we are in our housing element, we're 2 years into this program, and in 2025 we issued our permitted 2,125 housing units. If you look at by comparison, we're at 12.7% of our goal in 2 years through. And if we look at our low income, we're less than that. We're at 2.9%. So in summary, to meet our RHNA goals, we need to be able to permit 5,400 units per year in the remaining cycle to actually get to that 36,000. Very lofty goal. I don't think anyone ever anticipated we'd be able to do that, but that's what it would take to get there. The other thing we want to highlight, I know we're in a tight budget, but the resources needed to accomplish some of these low affordable housing items, the different programs, staff went through the housing element and tried to tabulate what that contribution would be. That's about $26 million. That's not just city funds. That would be other grants, other funding sources, but just to kind of give you the kind of a flair for the implications of the different programs and to meet the overall housing element. With that, we continue working with our developers to focus on affordable housing strategies. It is taking a heavy staff effort. We have about 2.5 FTEs that are working on the housing element. Some of these are community development staff, some of these are planning staff. But again, we want to bring this back up to council's attention, especially knowing that we are in a tight budget and some of these ordinances coming are, some may not be ones that are that palatable, and wanted to at least have the forum to have that discussion. With that, staff's here to answer questions.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Mr. Clegg, do you have any other comments before we go to council?
Thank you, Mayor. Just two comments. One, wanted to highlight Mr. Burns' statement about the housing element is being worked on by community development staff and planning staff, and we are finding with the new alignment of staff that the community development team is helping the overall development services team to get at these housing element issues. It's partly the type of topics that the state is pushing municipalities to address aren't the traditional standard site plan reviews and building inspections and the development process or permitting process, but they're pushing us to work into other areas. And so our community development staff do have the skills and the scope to address some of those issues, but also it's been a good synergy in that new unit to help address this particular need to get at a lot of work in the housing element. And then the other second point I would make is just to reiterate some of what Mr. Burns has already talked about, and that it's always a challenging, I would even call it a little bit of a dance with local municipalities and the state pushing down pretty significant state requirements, state policy. We understand a lot of the philosophy around that policy, but oftentimes the particular implementation or the timing or the degree to which that policy has to be implemented, at what funding levels. We often find ourselves between a rock and a hard place and trying to balance what the state is requiring and what our resources allow for. And we don't always have the ability to just say no thanks without being able to actually have an adopted housing element, which allows us to continue to approve projects and approve general plan amendments. And so this is not a new dilemma to this council, but just reiterating that this adoption of this housing element also required us to accept some conditions and commitments that are going to be hard for us to comply with, but it was the price of, again, being able to continue to be compliant and continue to issue permits to our builders.
Thank you, Mr. Clegg. Our colleagues in other cities certainly have expressed their challenges in trying to achieve the RHNA goals. How do we compare with comparable cities in our ability, just where we stand in meeting the RHNA target? Cities of our size, ballparkish.
Mayor, we have only really talked to cities up in the valley, so I'm not sure how our comparable size cities. I think Bakersfield's a bit unique in our size within our county, so I think our RHNA numbers are higher. I'm not sure if Ms. Byers has more information on comparison. We know by comparison, like small cities like McFarland, one project they're able to meet their RHNA goals.
Sure.
So it's.
Ms. Byers?
I was just going to say the other struggle is not all cities of our size are on the same cycle. We do have other comparable cities that are either in the 5th cycle, and so they are working from different numbers because they definitely increased what the requirements were for the 6th cycle.
Colleagues, Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I guess from the presentation, I'm observing that there's really two distinct challenges ahead of us. One is the RHNA goal itself, and then one is the compliance-driven activities that are required by the state. When I take a look at your last slide on summary and next steps, and staff indicates that there's a staffing need in 2.5 FTEs. Is that to address the RHNA goal or the compliance-driven activities and action items?
Councilor Gonzalez, it's both in some respects, but it's the policies items and the programs. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are outreach items. There are. It's not just build the units. It's the program totality that's really causing the additional work, more related to the expanded policies and expectations from the state.
So we need to more than double the number of permits each and every year to meet our goal, right? I mean, last year it was around 2,000 units that were permitted, 21, 25. do we have capacity to issue those permits through our existing process?
Councilor Gonzalez, if we had this miracle flood of permits coming through, no, we could not keep up with that volume with our current complement to get to that number.
Okay. What is the capacity of our current complement?
That's a difficult question to answer. We probably could get close to the 3,000 number in a year based on our current plan check staff. I can tell you our land development staff, just based on all the tracks coming through, they're buried. So I think if you're talking about new maps, then there would need to be added capacity there. But if we're just talking about planning and building, we probably could get close to that 3,000 number.
Okay, and then my final question is, we identify 112 reportable actions with 277 tasks. How do you prioritize these activities, and what actions are expected to give the city the highest return? So what are the highest leverage actions?
Councilor Gonzalez, I may need Ms. Byers also to come up and because many of the programs that community development is working on more relate to kind of the bang for the buck that you're talking about.
When we look at the fifth cycle had 50 action items, and now we're looking at, okay, I can't even do the math, up to 277 action items. But there's a lot more community engagement that's required. There's a lot of not only engagement with communities, engagement with community-based organizations, training opportunities. A lot of these tasks were also given deadlines. And so when we looked at the 8-year cycle, we did have the opportunity to provide timelines that we thought some of these goals could be accomplished. But part of the issue is, and why we so quickly brought the code amendments, is because when we started this, we went out of compliance with the housing element, had a goal of the end of 2024, the end of 2025, having some of these tasks accomplished. And so we already feel like we're at a deficit with some of these code amendments. I think calendar year 2024, they were supposed to be completed, but we didn't have a certified housing element, and so we couldn't actually bring these items forward. But when we look at the biggest bang, it really is community engagement, and our programs, I think, is what HCD is really looking for us to accomplish. If HCD was to come after us, I feel like that's what they would be targeting us for.
Yeah, and if I may, Councilmember, I think that's a good question, but it depends on what do we consider the value generated. So is the value generated units? Is the value generated compliance? Or is the value generated, I guess, sort of community benefit? And I would argue, like Ms. Byers pointed out, a lot of the focus from the state is not just on unit production. What their compliance measures aren't all tied to actual unit production. And I would argue, I think the biggest core need is we just need more units. And obviously we want those to be quality units, and we want them to be across the spectrum of affordability, and that we want to be providing opportunities for people to stay in their homes with prevention and get first-time home buyers. But honestly, I wouldn't claim that those are the biggest bang for the buck in totality, but that's not the compliance measures we're being asked to track. And so we have sat together, and I tell you that list, this team only didn't share all 277 with me, and my eyes got crossed real fast because it's a big spreadsheet with just so many items. But we were trying to think through what has been the council direction, what's been your council priorities, have we had council referrals on some of these same topics recently, and where have we seen progress with some of the funding sources like the land trust, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, some of the other, home and HAP and BCHIP. And then for us, we think the biggest bang for our buck for the community is unit production, but we also know we have to stay compliant. So we're kind of running those both in parallel.
No, I appreciate that, and thank you for walking us through that. I think that demonstrates some strategic thinking in how we approach this and all of these activities. I'll just say, as one council member on the dais, I am less interested in satisfying the needs of a bureaucrat in Sacramento and worried about the compliance-driven work, and more concerned about the number of units for the families of Bakersfield, and making sure that we have high-quality, affordable housing, and housing that's affordable. It's not necessarily affordable housing for all people of Bakersfield. And I think that we just need to get to the heart of it. So I'll continue my mantra of more housing, much more quickly, much more cheaply for all of us. And so thank you for the work, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't see any other requests to speak, colleagues. We need someone to make a motion
I'll
for
make a
receive and
motion to
file.
receive and file. Sorry.
Thank you. You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with council members Kaur, Smith, and Bashir Tosh absent.
Thanks. And now a motion to adjourn to closed session.
Motion
Mayor
to
Go, if I may please read the closed session item.
Yes, thank you.
Closed session item 5A, conference with legal counsel existing litigation regarding Rocky Regalt, Dominic Ledesma v. City of Bakersfield.
Thank you.
motion to adjourn to closed session.
We're adjourned. Reconvening the 3:30 City Council meeting. Madam City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. There was only one item on closed session this afternoon, item 5A, and there is no reportable action. The record should reflect that present were Councilmember Arias, Councilmember Gonzalez, Councilmember Weir, and Councilmember Coleman. Thank you.
Thank you. And so with no further business, we stand adjourned at 4:59. And we'll be starting the next meeting at 5:15.